Hello, hello, boys and girls. We are on chapter 7 of Mouse and the Motorcycle. I hope you are enjoying this story so far. Today's work, you will be sequencing. Sequencing means you need to tell the order in which they happened. So you are just going to put them in order. So which one happened first? 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. I will read them for you. The little terrier entered the room and started barking at Ralph. Ralph made it back to his mouse hole to catch up on sleep. Ralph drove the motorcycle into the pillowcase. Ralph started chewing his way out of the hamper. The maid began vacuuming under the bed. The maid picked up the bundle of the bed linen with Ralph inside. So remember, you have to number them. What happened first, second, third, and so forth. Okay, here we are finding common nouns, adjectives, and verbs. Common noun, person, place, or thing. Desk, chair, ball, toy. Adjective, what describes the noun? Blue, large, lonely, wooden. Verb usually is an action word, and it usually ends in ed. Ran doesn't, but ran would be a verb. Climbed, walked, jumped, laughed. So look for those ed words. And it says to tell me the page you found those on. If you forget to do that, no biggie. All right. What did Ralph first grab to keep from being sucked up by the vacuum cleaner? All right. So who is it about? It's about Mr. Ralph here. Ralph first grabbed. We're going to add an ed to that. Ralph first grabbed, and then you're going to put the answer. Blah, 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 to keep from being sucked up by the vacuum. So the answer goes in the middle. Ralph first grabbed, blah, 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 to keep from being sucked up by the vacuum. What was the important experiment that Ralph wanted to perform? Okay. The important experiment that Ralph wanted to perform was, sorry, you can't see that. And then, why did Ralph decide to abandon the motorcycle? Abandon means to leave. Who is it about? Mr. Ralph again. Ralph decided, going to put an ed at the end of that, to abandon the motorcycle because, and then tell me your wonderful answer. All right, get your book out so we can start reading. I'd love it if you are following along. I know you are. Chapter 7, The Vacuum Cleaner. From his position under the bed, Ralph watched the tank of the vacuum cleaner being dragged in from the hall and listened to the clash and clang of the attachments as the maid connected a long metal tube to a nozzle at the end of the hose and fastened a carpet cleaning part to the end of the tube. He heard her humming to herself as she plugged in the deadly machine and began to work it back and forth across the carpet. It's nice she's so happy, thought Ralph bitterly, as he watched the hungry machine devour dust and lint that lay in its path. The maid's feet in white sneakers moved across the room until, without bothering to bend down to see where she was cleaning, she shoved the attachment under the bed. It slid closer and closer to Ralph. To be on the safe side, he pushed the motorcycle farther from the reach of the machine, but he dared not take his eye off the attachment for even an instant. He shuddered as he watched it gobble a dust mouse, but even as he shuddered, he was fascinated by the power of the motor. The maid began to sing, "I'll give to you a paper of pins, for that's the way my love begins." The attachment fell off the end of the long tube, but the maid, whose thoughts were elsewhere, did not notice. Now Ralph could feel the machine suck in its breath and knew he was in danger of being inhaled along with the dust mice. Recklessly, the maid pushed the open end of the tube back and forth any old way. There was no guessing which way it would go next. Ralph had to run with the motorcycle to avoid that terrifying hole at the end of the tube. He ran to the right, he ran to the left, and still the maid pushed the tube around, unaware that the attachment had fallen off. Suddenly, the maid threw down the tube, but did not turn off the motor. The tube laid with a bump and a bounce, and before Ralph realized what was happening, the awful machine had inhaled his tail, and he felt himself being pulled by suction across the carpet. "Help!" He could not keep from squeaking, but no one heard him above the roar of the machine. He just managed to catch the rear wheel of the motorcycle as he was sucked along the carpet. He hung on with all his strength. The machine, which was strong enough to suck up a mouse, was not strong enough to suck up a mouse and a motorcycle. Ralph lay there on his stomach, hanging on for dear life and feeling his whiskers and fur swept back toward the machine. From his position on his stomach, Ralph could see the girl standing in front of the dresser. She was smiling at herself in the mirror and arranging her hair, dreaming, no doubt, of the busboy. Ralph despaired. There was no telling how long she would stand there in that silly way. With the vacuum cleaner motor making so much noise, the housekeeper was sure to think she was busy working.